Morning. Welcome, everybody. It's so good to see you. Please, as you enter, feel free to put in the chat where you're joining us from. We'd love to hear where people are coming from for this lovely program today, and we're excited you could be here. I know we have some people from Massachusetts. We may have people from outside Massachusetts, so please feel free to indicate that. Yes, we have Boston in the house. And New York, welcome, New York. Newton, very nice. And oh, we got a lot of people. Norwood. So welcome to all of you. Hanover, yay. Chile, okay, wonderful. It's so good to see all of you. Virginia, all right, Holbrook, Weymouth, and again, Boston. Hingham, great. Well, I hope you're all having a lovely day wherever you are. I'm Miriam Diamond. I'm the program director of the Encore Boston Network. And I want to thank all of you for being here today. And I also want to thank our sponsors and event collaborators for today's Age-Friendly Employer Forum. They include, of course, the Encore Boston Network, the AARP of Massachusetts, the Age-Friendly Institute, 50 Plus Job Seekers of Massachusetts, the City of Boston Age Strong Commission, the Massachusetts Executive Office of Elder Affairs, and Operation Able. It takes a village to bring you a really great program. So in this series, and this is the sixth part of the series, we recognize age-friendly employers. We introduce them to job seekers who are 50 and over, and we want to encourage other employers to follow their lead. We want to elevate age-friendly designation as a tool, both for the employers and for you, the job seekers. So our goals today are to highlight employers that meet the standards of being age-friendly, and we'll talk about what that means shortly. We like to connect the employers with the job seekers. That's really important. We want you, the job seekers, to know about AARP and CAFE initiatives and the role these initiatives can play in your job search. We're trying to encourage a broader adoption of age-friendly practices among employers. And for you, we want to generate more hope, more direction, and more confidence as you go about your job hunt. So let me tell you about today's agenda. First, we'll have a welcome and introductions. We'll hear about AARP and the CAFE employer pledges. We'll meet our featured age-friendly employers. Then we'll open things up for questions, and we encourage you to put your questions in the chat throughout the whole program. To make it easier for us to identify a question versus a comment, we encourage you to write question first before your question so that we can locate it more easily. And then we'll wrap up, and in a week or so, you'll get a follow-up email, which will include a recording of the session. So if there's something you didn't write down or went so fast, what did they say? I'm always going back to listen to things again. And if you have friends you want to share this with, feel free to. We'll also give you the slides, and we'll give you some resources and contact information for today's presenters. So you will leave with parting gifts. So as I said, this session is recorded. The chat function is always open. And if you need to use closed captioning, you are more than welcome to. So now I'd like to introduce today's moderator, Emily Shea, Age Strong Commission. She led the effort for Boston's designation as an age-friendly city by the World Health Organization and AARP. This commission serves as Boston's area agency on aging and the Council on Aging. So it sets the city's direction for successful aging of its residents. Emily has an MSW, MPH, and certificate in gerontology from Boston University and a BA from St. Michael's College. So please join me in welcoming Emily Shea.
Great. Thank you so much, Miriam. And we are just so excited at the City of Boston to be a part of this partnership. And I am thrilled to be here today. So good morning, everyone, and welcome. We are really happy to have you all here for this very important and timely conversation. So as you know, over the past 2 years, the economy and job market have gone through extreme changes, and we're looking ahead to further changes over the coming months. The good news, and there's always good news, right, is that unemployment has gone down, including for older workers. But we know that those results are unevenly distributed, including for people over 50. Some have found jobs they're happy with, and that's great. But others have found jobs that don't fully or appropriately use their skills and experience, and others have yet to find work. So there's good news and bad news in the current job market. But there's one broad trend that we want to focus on today. The strength of the economic rebound and the shortage of skilled workers has encouraged larger numbers of employers to look at the experience of older workers with new interest. This growing share of employers understands the value of older workers, and they've intentionally set out to recruit and to retain them in the workplace. Our purpose today is to showcase some of these age-friendly employers who have taken 2 specific steps to qualify for today's panel: signed the AARP Employer Pledge and also qualified as a certified age-friendly employer. So we're going to come back to those 2 programs in just a moment so that you all understand what those things are. But first, I want to remind those who may not be aware that this is the 6th time that we've gathered together for an age-friendly employer forum, and we've offered them over the past 2 years. Over the course of these forums, we've showcased 17 different employers. That's through today. And these employers continue to hire people over the age of 50. So we encourage you to check the positions that they have available. We'll send you this list as a follow-up, and you can also find them on the Encore Boston Network website under Age-Friendly Employers. Now, we want to share some information about the Certified Age-Friendly Employer Program and the AARP Employer Pledge Program. All of the panelists that have participated in these forums, including those that will meet shortly, have been approved by both CAFE and AARP. So with us today are 2 colleagues whose organizations are working to support older workers. It's Kara Cohen, who's the manager for community outreach and volunteer engagement at AARP Massachusetts, and also Tim Driver, president of the AARP Friendly Institute. And they're going to talk about these programs. So Kara and Tim, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Commissioner Shea. A pleasure to be here with you all today, and delighted to see that we have some really strong numbers representing from all over the country here. It is a pleasure for AARP Massachusetts to be one of the sponsors once again of this great event that's brought to you by the mighty Encore Boston Network. It is a pleasure working with the entire team at the Encore Boston Network. So definitely check them out for all the other great things that they do. As Emily said, I am the manager for outreach and volunteer engagement at the AARP Massachusetts office. Some of you may not know that there's an AARP Massachusetts office. Every state has an AARP office. As you may know, AARP is the largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering Americans 50 and older to choose how they live as they age, how we live as we age. AARP works to strengthen communities and advocates for what matters most to families. We have a focus on health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. And on the advocacy front, some of our key areas of focus are on lowering the cost of prescription drugs, advocating for nursing home and long-term care reform, and for financial support for caregivers. A critical component of our financial stability work is to ensure that the 50 plus can continue working as long as they want to. To that end, we engage with employers on the value of a multi-generational workforce and demonstrate the impact of age diversity on the bottom line. Our core initiative in this regard is the AARP Employer Pledge Program. You see the slide before you. These employers from around the country stand with AARP in affirming the value of experienced workers and are committed to developing diverse organizations. So since its inception in 2012, the Pledge program has grown to over 1,000 employers. That's 1,000 employers with an employee reach of over 17 million people. AARP's work with the employers helps these organizations move beyond the limited stereotypes about older workers toward an age-friendly workplace, a more age-inclusive workplace. And these employers have been vetted by AARP, have a good rating with the Better Business Bureau, and over the last 3 years, there have not been any class action discrimination suits successfully brought against them. These companies receive regular communications from AARP, are encouraged to network with the other employer pledge signers, and are offered webinars to bolster their support for older workers. And they are also asked to take deliberate action steps to signify their support for older workers. Next slide, please, Kendra. You can go online, and we'll wait for the next slide. Thank you so much. You can go online and search for employers in the Employer Pledge Program by location, by industry, and by company, and it takes you to their website. We have over 90 employers, by the way, in Massachusetts who have signed the pledge, and that number continues to grow. Next slide, please. AARP offers many resources for experienced workers. We have the AARP job board. Any company can pay to list on it, and the employer pledge signers have the AARP Employer Pledge Program seal next to them, so you know that they've signed the pledge. You can also see what companies are looking to hire veterans. Next slide, please. At aarp.org/work, we offer resources and tools to help you with your job search. For example, the AARP Skills Builder for Work is one of our newest resources to help you gain in-demand skills to be competitive in today's job market. You'll also find very of-the-moment articles to help you navigate today's ever-changing job market that the commissioner just described. Next slide, please. Also at aarp.org/jobs, there's another new tool that that we're testing out. It's called the AARP Career Navigator. So you can explore where your career path can take you, and the AARP Career Navigator shows you ways to advance in your career trajectory, grow your salary, and what skills you may need to move along. As the new tool launches, only a certain number of fields will be available, but please check back as more are added because it's in the beta stage right now, as you can see. Next slide.
Adam, I'm sorry to bother you.
Okay, we offer free webinars that are available on demand on a variety of topics. For example, balancing the new realities of in-person and remote work and how to beat the hiring bots. Those are just a couple of examples. And then on November 17th, we're offering a webinar on the positives of part-time work. If you're considering part-time work as a way of supplementing income or returning to the workforce, you are not alone. I think somebody's got to check their mic there. It's long been recognized that a part-time job can offer attractive combination of free time and income as people phase into a different chapter in their life. So please join us for this free virtual webinar to hear the benefits of part-time work, how part-time work could affect your Social Security benefits too, that's key, and where to look for part-time work. So we'll also share information about AARP tools and resources like what I've just been talking about. And then our final slide, the catch-all, all the websites that I've just described, including how to reach AARP Massachusetts, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and my own direct line and email address should you want to reach out to me. So I look forward to any questions that I may be able to help with. And please be in touch if you have any questions for me specifically. That's it. Over to Tim, I think, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Kara, very much. And welcome to everybody. And thanks again to the Encore Boston Network and Commissioner Shea for helping to host this event. We can advance the slide there, Kendra, if you would. Before I jump into some of the nuts and bolts of the Certified Age-Friendly Employer Program, I want to highlight an additional certified age-friendly employer who, in addition to the ones you're going to hear from shortly, and that is the state of Massachusetts. So most of our attendees today are in the state of Massachusetts, and I want to highlight that that the state has become the first state in the union to become a certified age-friendly employer. And that was announced earlier in the year by Governor Baker, who took pains to emphasize this. And he announced it at a conference that we hosted, the Age Friendly Institute hosted back in April. And his words were the following. He said, if you're going to want other folks to play by a certain standard and a certain set of rules and a certain set of expectations, then you need to play by them too. And that was one of the reasons why we went at this pretty hard and why we're thrilled to be the first state to be designated as a certified age-friendly employer. So the background on this is that I had the privilege of serving as the co-chair of the Employment Committee on Governor Baker's Council to Address Aging. And this topic that we're talking about today is a topic of real importance to the state. And also, Emily is here to represent the city of Boston. So this is something that is a real priority. And one of the things that came out of the process of us talking with the state and running them through our process is that a very high percentage of people working for the state of Massachusetts are over the age of 50 relative to other employers. So on average, the percentage of people over the age of 50 is in the sort of the mid 30s percentage wise. And in the state of Massachusetts, it's well over 40%. So if you're looking at that as one measure of what makes an employer age friendly, certainly it's impossible to ignore that. So I wanted to highlight Governor Baker's comments, and those comments were also echoed by our Secretary of Labor, Marty Walsh, who obviously is our former mayor of Boston, and he called this program a new national model and also just emphasized the importance of employers becoming certified as age friendly in terms of not just economic security and not just health, both mentally and physical, but also the increased labor force participation rate of older workers is important to policymakers like Secretary Walsh because it contributes to the expansion of the economy. So these are a whole host of reasons why it was important to Secretary Walsh and Governor Baker, and now other governors are joining this, what I would like to call a parade. And speaking of parade, we're also announcing today, the Age Friendly Institute, is that this is not just a program within the United States where it's been for the last 16 years, but we've announced just this morning, actually, that the CAFE program, which is an acronym for Certified Age Friendly Employer, is expanding internationally into Brazil and Canada. Thanks, Kendra. So now the nuts and bolts of the CAFE program. So the program has been around since 2006. It's a methodology that's rooted, and I'll tell you a bit more on the next slide about it. It's rooted in compensation and benefits standards. So it's an HR designed program, and it's been honed over these years where we've just been able to establish, what is it that makes an age-friendly employer. Next slide, please, Kendra. Here are some of the standards we use when an employer applies to become certified as an age-friendly employer. We ask a battery of questions, some of them quantitative, some of them qualitative, and we're looking to establish that they are committed and showing evidence of being age-friendly. And we're asking them to speak on their own behalf, but we're also doing research using third-party access, and then we're also talking to employees and former employees to make sure we have a fair representation of what it's really like to be at that employer. Next slide, please. Here's a picture of retirementjobs.com, and this is a website where you can go to find jobs that are posted for people over the age of 50, and there is a highlighting mechanism embedded here where you can also sort by those jobs that are from employers that are certified as age friendly. There's several 100,000 jobs here at any given time. They cover the entire country. Some of them are volunteer, some part-time, some full-time, and there are over 1 million job seeker members who are part of retirementjobs.com. And the next slide, please. You can also see access to a similar set of content on the website agefriendly.org. And if you go to the jobs section there, you'll be able to access another series of information, as well as accessing the certified age-friendly employers. So I encourage you to go to either of these websites and plug in your zip code to find access to employers more likely to be welcoming to people over 50 than the opposite. And the opposite is obviously employers that are shunning or not welcoming people over 50. And, you know, it is the case that age discrimination still does exist in our society. This is one way to navigate around it, is to first knock on the door of employers that have gone through these processes, the AARP Employer Pledge or the Certified Age-Friendly Employer Program. Next slide. Next slide, Kenny. Thank you. So now I want to hand it off to Lynn Stewart, and thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Thank you all. So pleasure to be here. Big thank you to the organizers and to all of the attendees today. My name is Lynn Stewart, and I am the Vice President of Growth for Supporting Strategies. And Supporting Strategies has been around since 2004, and we provide virtual or outsourced accounting, bookkeeping, and back office operations to a variety of businesses. Actually, it's been thousands since 2004. One of the unique things about our company, we are 100% remote based. All 77 of our franchise offices, all of our employees are home based, US based, and work from home. Next slide. This is a little quick shot of our website. So a bit more about us. I mean, we are thrilled to be a part of the Age-Friendly Certification Program, the AARP Employer Pledge Program. I go way back with Tim Driver and am absolutely a staunch advocate for the Age-Friendly Employer Program. So as a company, we embrace diversity. There's no two ways about that. And as we hire specifically folks that have 5 or more years of accounting, bookkeeping, back office operations experience, that's a perfect fit for the older worker. So we have a very high percentage of older workers within our organization. We've been ranked a top employer with Flex Jobs. We are a highly regarded and awarded franchise operation as well. And also, for 8 months running, we have been the #1 employer within the Indeed network. So in the accounting and bookkeeping space. So again, we've got a phenomenal reputation. And again, the older worker is absolutely integral to our success. Next slide, please. There we go. So we have 4 key roles that we typically recruit for, but the majority of our folks are either financial operations managers or financial operations associates. So again, experienced folks looking for part and full flexible roles that they can do from home. And, I'm proud to tell you that, despite the recession and the pandemic, we've been very recession proof. I mean, think of it, the importance of knowing where your business finances stand, knowing where your financials are. It's just been tremendous. We've always been remote since 2004, so we didn't have to scramble to create a remote culture like many companies did during the pandemic. We already had it. So the majority of our folks are working in these 2 roles. And again, would always encourage you to visit our website or find our postings on retirementjobs.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lynn. And folks, Lynn is the Vice President of Growth for Supporting Strategies, and we very much appreciate you being here with us today.
Thank you.
All right, now I would like to bring up our next panelist to tell a little bit about herself and her organization. And then after that, we will get into the conversation. So please join me in welcoming Shameen Awan. Shameen is the Assistant Vice President for Talent Management and DEI at Amica Mutual Insurance.
Thank you so much for being here and for inviting me to be a panelist. I'm super excited. Amica is an outstanding organization. If you have been to our website at amica.com, you'll probably see a lot about us. We have won many awards as it relates to customer service, specifically J.D. Power. We really pride ourselves on excellent internal and external customer service, and really spending a lot of time with our customers as well as our employees. So we have a lot of our customers really have long-standing relationships with us. They've been customers probably 40, 50, 60 years, and a lot of our employees, including myself, 26 years at Amica. I started in the core business as a field adjuster and worked my way up through the branch system, and spent 25 years completely in claims and transferred to human resources last year. And I think a great thing about what we do here at Amica is that a lot of our skills are transferable. So you can really move from department to department, provided that it's not, something that's completely specialized. So 25 years in claims allowed me to really move over into HR, overseeing talent management, talent acquisition, as well as DE and I over the last year. So we've got a great benefits package. We have great health care coverage. We have a lot of supports for our employees. We found that over the last 2.5 or 3 years, it was very difficult for our employees during COVID. So we really focused on providing mental health benefits for our employees, including the Employee Assistance Program, which is a really, really highly rated and utilized program. We also reduced some of our co-pays for mental health benefits for employees. And there are also virtual visits for those employees who obviously have either Blue Cross Blue Shield with us or the consumer directed health plan that are free of charge. So we really, our compensation and benefits team works really, really hard to make sure that we're equitable across the organization, and continually is really being innovative and looking at different benefits that apply to all of our employees. We also have a lot of awards and recognitions, as I said earlier. Forbes 2022, America's Best Insurance Companies, as well as J.D. Power, and AM Best ratings, and PBN Best Places to Work winner in 2021, 2022, and we've actually been a winner for the last 12 years. We do have quite a few job openings on our job board. You can check that on amica.com or on LinkedIn. A little background about us. We have 25 branch offices and sales centers across the United States. So some of our positions require mobility to one of those operations, but we do have quite a few openings in our corporate office campus here in Lincoln, Rhode Island, where we have about 1,200 employees. We are a hybrid workforce now. We have 3 days in the office and 2 days at home. There are some business units, particularly technology, that are fully remote, but for the most part, we are 3 days in the office and 2 days at home. So that's a little bit of a background on us. I could certainly talk for hours and hours about it, but I think if you have any, we'll get into the panel and I'll be able to answer some more specific questions. So just happy to be here and thanks a lot.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shamim. Before we get into our conversation, I've been asked just to say a few words about working for a municipality. So I will do that. Because I don't think that working for a municipality is necessarily something that everybody thinks about. I know I certainly didn't before I came to work for the city of Boston. So what I love working for a municipality about is the mission that you have. So it's very mission-driven work. I know that sometimes there's a myth about public workers, but I certainly haven't seen that here at the city of Boston. Everyone I know is so passionate about their work and about really serving the residents of the city. So another thing that I love is the wide range of opportunities. So everything from working in transportation to immigrant advancement to working with local businesses. Municipalities hire folks to do basic city services, the things that make all of our cities and towns run, right? Like painting lines, coordinating signals, focusing on the plan to do recycling better, finance, treasury, all of those jobs. But they also hire a lot of folks who kind of think and plan, work in human services. We're doing a lot of work in Boston around climate action, diversity, equity, and inclusion, housing, community engagement, and of course, aging. So you name it, I think a municipality is doing it. And also working for a municipality can be a very secure role with great benefits, annual salary increases, and investment in a pension. So I know in Boston, you're vested after 10 years, which gives you both a pension and health insurance. So in many cases, we have union roles, so you have representation and someone to advocate for you. But working for a municipality also cannot be as it's not always as flexible as other positions. So most of our roles are guided by overall city policy and union contracts. So for example, we couldn't just give someone time off that they hadn't earned. So I think there's both pros and cons to consider as you're thinking about those roles. So now I want to get us into our conversation, and I have some questions for our two panelists, and then we are going to open it up to questions from the audience. So I'm going to get started with this, but think about your questions, and when we're wrapping up these questions, you can start to put them in the chat. So first, I think I'll start with Lynn, since you spoke first, Lynn. So can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing currently in terms of hiring, the economic recovery, and the ongoing impact of the pandemic?
Sure, absolutely. So as I kind of alluded to earlier, our business, our franchisees are thriving in this economy. So it has been incredible growth happening throughout the past 3 years, and hiring is at an all-time high. So, we've done quite a bit to kind of cast a broader net, make sure that we're getting more candidates into the process, treated well through the application and consideration process, and then quickly into a role if they're a fit. So just in the past 3 months, we've more than doubled our applicants. So we're seeing quite an increase. What I think is driving it is so many employers are now going back to that hybrid work model or back into the office. And folks really enjoyed the flexibility and the freedom they had working from home. So working for an organization like Supporting Strategies, you never have that threat of having to go back into the office, and it's a much better fit to folks' lifestyle. We pay completely competitively as well. So again, just with that said, we're seeing an incredible uptick in interest, and we've actually made about 400 hires already this year.
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
It is, it's
Um,
wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. So Shameen, same question to you. Can you talk about what you're currently seeing in terms of hiring, the economic recovery, and the ongoing impact of the pandemic?
Sure. So in 2020, we were pretty stable as far as having, a lot of our positions filled. And I think the idea of the pandemic caused, employees to sort of stay where they were, because there were quite a few layoffs that were going on. Amica really has not actually had a layoff in over 115 years. So, which is a really great thing to be proud of. And then as we were coming out of the pandemic, we saw much more turnover, and really I call it a war on talent. I mean, we've talked about this war on talent for a few years, but it's really gotten very, very competitive. We had to really look at our, compensation and benefits. We put together a more robust recruiting strategy, and we really looked at out of the box recruiting. So, attending different job fairs, maybe being much more innovative. We are seeing that some of our competitors are starting to lay off. So we're seeing more applicants to a lot of our positions. We do still have quite a few positions open. We're also seeing people who are boomerangs, right? So that's a big thing, is that they left us and then maybe found that the grass was not always greener and want to come back. So what we've done is we've done extended exit surveys to those who have left to see if there's any interest in returning, and we're doing those quarterly. And I can tell you, when we get the results back from some of those extended exit surveys, the reason people are interested in coming back is the culture that we have, the people that we have, and the benefits that we offer. So I think we're seeing that the applicant pool is growing, but there is still sort of a struggle where I think candidates are being courted by multiple companies. So they might start with us and they get a better offer, so they're leaving us and going elsewhere. So I think that's one of the things, that the trends that we're seeing as of late, especially with the core business units. But the boomerangs is something that, we're kind of happy to see, because they missed us.
That's always a good sign when folks come back, right?
Right.
So back to Lynn. Lynn, can you talk about why your organization values and seeks out older workers?
Sure, absolutely. We believe, as a matter of fact, we know it's really the most effective modern day strategy for workforce planning. As I said, you have to cast that broad net. So considering that all of our folks have a minimum of 5 years of experience and a degree or equivalent work experience, that really lends itself well to the older worker. So the flexibility of part-time, full-time, being able to accommodate the schedule that you want for a great rate of pay, it's just an incredible value offer to our potential employees. So, we find that people working from home, it keeps them in the workforce longer. It's allowing older workers, our organization, to be able to kind of ease into retirement or supplement their retirement. So they don't have to go all in. And again, use the skills that they've developed over many years in their career.
Great. Thank you so much, Lynn. Shameen, same question for you. Why does your organization value and seek out older workers?
I think, similar to what Lynn said, really wanting to cast that wider net, but we really value experience. I think that's super, super helpful. And what we have seen in the pandemic, or with some of the turnover, is that we've seen a lot of our experience sort of retiring. And we don't have those wonderful experienced mentors that we used to have for our younger, supervisors and managers. So we value stability. We value, the care and concern. The mentorship, I think, is really huge, because I know when I was a new manager, I always called on someone who had that experience to help me through things that I didn't know. And I think that meant a lot to me as a person. And when you see a lot of those retirements, you're losing that, I guess what they call, brain drain. So I think that really is a factor with us, is the stability and the mentorships and the care and concern that our veteran workers have for one another, and for sort of the younger generations to lead them down the right path. Because I think sometimes when you're younger, you can sort of, say, I can do everything, but you have that sort of, mentor and an experienced worker that can say, hey, maybe you want to think about it this way, and this might be a better option for, getting to the next level.
Thank you, Shameen. All right. So, Lynn, how does your company let people know that you want to hire older workers?
Oh, great question. So, obviously we're proud to participate as, an AARP employer pledge member, the age-friendly certification. You'll find that front and center along with our diversity stance within our websites. But we've taken great care to really, we've just done a refresh on the website to really make sure that that language is loud and clear, that we value experience. We value people of all ages with our organization. And then that trickles into even our job ads. Again, we cast that broad net. Again, retirementjobs.com is a big source for us. Again, we want the message to be, you are welcome and you are valued here. And there's no limitation to that. And so, you have to take a hard look at how you're communicating externally across every asset, across every touch point, to make sure that, our culture shines through.
Yeah, so important that folks hear that message.
Mhm.
Shameen, do you do anything additional at your organization?
I mean, I think I echo exactly what Lynn said, and we can take a look at obviously our website with age-friendly certification and our DE&I strategy. I think really, once again, casting that wide net and valuing all ages is super, super important. If I can go back to what I talked about earlier, is really having those mentors in the organization who can help sort of the younger generation of employees get up through the ranks. But I think it's really looking at what other innovative ways can we recruit in those age-friendly areas, right? So we also do a lot of veteran recruiting. We have a veteran adjusting school that is in Phoenix that we recruit specifically from. So that's really been a great opportunity for us, for those frontline field adjusters. And like I said, going to as many different job fairs as possible, whether they're in person or virtual. So we really want to focus on getting getting the best talent for our organization.
Thank you, Shameen. All right. And I have one last question here for you folks. So Lynn, can you talk about what you would suggest to people over the age of 50 who are looking to work in this job market? So anything about job search tips, training, all of those things.
Absolutely. Being over 50 myself, I've had to make a lot of changes over the years. And the first thing is to remove as many possible dates as you can from your resume. This is my recommendation. You don't need to show your graduation years. You don't need to go back and put every single job from the beginning of time that you've had. Again, bring it more current, focus on what you've actually accomplished, what value you can bring to the organization. Make sure you're using keywords and you're addressing, the specific requirements you see in the jobs. Make sure you're referencing those and kind of tweaking your resume before you apply. So again, those are the two things that I think I want to be presented as the person I am and the experience and the value that I bring. I don't want somebody to immediately look and see that I graduated college in 1989 and think I'm too old. So again, that would just be my advice.
All right. And Shameen, any other thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think, keeping your resume to the one page if you can, is really important. And I think also maybe noting some of the items that you've done outside of work is important, especially when it comes to philanthropic or community. I know Amika is really, really huge on community and serving the communities that we live and work in. So I think adding that in and any sort of leadership, roles that really is helpful. In clubs, like I've been a Rotarian for 12 years, and I think, Rotary is a great organization for leadership. And so if you're a Rotarian or something like that, add that on to your resume, and don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. If you have a friend or maybe your son, daughter, take a look at your resume. There are also organizations or companies out there that can probably help you with your resume and your cover letter. So I would say do not be shy about asking for help. So many people are really, really willing to help you out.
Great. Thank you so much, Shameen. And before we move on to some additional questions, and I've seen a couple of those in the chat already, I want to just highlight one additional resource for people. Massachusetts has career centers that are overseen by the state. So you can go to the Mass Hire Career Centers. It's the state partnering with a lot of nonprofit partners. So Mass Hire Career Centers, it's at www.mass.gov/Mass Hire, and we can put that in the chat for folks. All right, so I have a question here that came in from one of the attendees, and I'm going to put it out to kind of either Lynn or Shameen, if you want to speak on this. So it seems that most hiring managers, usually the first person of contact, are about 23 years old. I don't really think that these folks have been trained to appreciate older applicants. I'm a young 74 going on 54. Are there suggestions that you have for the best way to approach them in a cover letter?
Interesting. Shameen, I'll just jump in on this one. I think you're kind of right. There's a lot of younger folks in recruitment. I mean, with us, we have a very balanced team. We're 50-50. So half of our team is over the age of 50 and the other half is under. And we do a lot of work together to make sure that folks are being sensitive and inclusive. I mean, so with that said, keeping your language on point, keeping straight to the point on your cover letter. It doesn't matter what your age is or a recruiter's age is. If you are demonstrating how you're a fit to the role you're applying for, it's pretty hard for anyone to ignore that. So I would say that as long as you stay focused on, positioning yourself, presenting yourself in alignment with what they're looking for, again, I really think that takes some of the bias opportunity away. And I'd love anyone else's thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I think we do hear a lot of training too with recruiting and focusing on unconscious biases and things like that. It's super important. We want the best person for the position, right? So, and like Lynn said, you know, making sure that your cover letter and your resume are on point, and really seek assistance. As Emily said, that there are some assistants out there in Massachusetts, and I'm sure in Rhode Island, career centers that can really help you with that. But I think, you know, I know our recruiters are very, very highly trained on proper recruiting and what to look for, and, you know, watching for those unconscious biases.
I agree.
Great, thank you. We have another question here. We've heard about age-friendly employers in the business sector and public sector. What could the panelists tell us about age-friendly employers in the nonprofit sector and higher education sector for those of us inclined towards these kinds of organizations? So I will let you speak on that, but I just want to say that there's a suggestion in the chat to Google nonprofit network in the Commonwealth. Lots of nonprofits in the state, and several like Operation Able are age friendly. I think you could probably also see additional folks on if you look at ARP, or if you look at the Tim's list. But if there's other, I see Tim and Kara both saying they'll jump in, so go for it.
So I was just going to say, go to our website. I'll put the exact link in for where you can find the list of employers that have signed the AARP Employer Pledge. And I just searched by pet services, and a number of companies came up. So you'll have to sort by, you know, what location, and do your search by industry. And I'm confident that you're going to find some that suit your interests and fit your needs.
Tim, anything additional?
I would just add that, you know, healthcare is a category where there are a lot of nonprofits, and a lot of them are some of the earliest adopters of becoming certified age-friendly employers. You know, the hospitals, not only are they looking to attract people, and they are nonprofits much of the time, but they also have extraordinary benefits programs much of the time. And to somebody else's question in the chat earlier, they often have part-time work. So I would look to that sector in addition to some of the other ones if you're looking for nonprofit work.
Great, thanks, Tim. All right, so what advice to our panelists again, what advice do you have for job seekers in this age group who have been out of work for a couple of years, either due to the pandemic or health issues or caregiving? We know people are balancing a lot of things. And if they've been out of work for a couple of years and they still want to be competitive in their job search, what advice do you have?
Shameen, do you want me to go first? I don't want to just jump in.
No,
every
go ahead.
time.
No, it's fine.
I saw
No,
you
go
still
ahead.
on mute.
Go ahead.
Great. So what I would say that, you know, that don't let that affect your mindset. Everyone has their reasons. You don't even have to really explain why you made that decision, but it's important to upskill yourself. It's important to stay current on whatever your area of expertise or your industry has been. I'm not saying you have to go out and get a technology degree. What I'm saying is be informed, be up to date on what the latest practices are, or, you know, requirements, et cetera, and really kind of steer yourself that way. So give yourself time to ramp back into it. But if you did something 10 years ago, you put it down for 10 years and you picked it up, guaranteed it's changed. Even if you've done it a few years ago, I guess you could say that. So I would say, you know, the onus is on you to educate yourself and make yourself a competitive candidate for the roles that are being offered.
Yeah, and I would also say, you know, join any sort of groups. LinkedIn has quite a few groups that you can join in to stay current and see what is out there. I think LinkedIn, everyone's probably using that in some way, shape, or form or another. So that's that can be super helpful. And if, you know, you could explain, hey, here's the situation why, I stopped working and I'm back into it. I'm doing volunteering. It's not like I'm not doing anything. I might be doing volunteering, and that really requires a lot of skills also. So don't sell yourself short if you're doing a lot of volunteering on the side, but you just haven't gone back into the, quote, workforce. But volunteering is a lot of work. I do a ton of it on the side, and it really takes up a lot of time, and you learn some great skills with that. So that's another avenue, I think.
Yeah, and I would add too, so a lot of folks that we have, working for our network, they retired. They really and truly didn't do much for a few years, by design. They had spent X number of years working every day, et cetera. So they maybe played golf, or they gardened, or they volunteered, so it could be any number of things. And now either the economy, or maybe, hey, they've had enough gardening and golf, folks have various reasons. So when I agree, don't sell yourself short. And honestly, you don't have to explain your life choices to anyone. You just have to show them, well, I'm here now, and this is what I bring to the table. So that's always what I look for. I want someone to be very straightforward.
Great. Shameen, I know that you mentioned LinkedIn, and there's a question here. How would you suggest that people use LinkedIn to draw attention to their experience? And do you use LinkedIn as a recruiting tool?
We do use LinkedIn as a recruiting tool, and all of our jobs are posted on LinkedIn. We also have our employees. If we're hiring for a certain position, we'll have employees who will sort of share the job posting for their network. There are so many options on LinkedIn. I mean, you can search jobs, you can star yourself so people reach out to you. I really think it's a great resource. It can get overwhelming a bit because there's a lot out there. But I think starting out with LinkedIn and then getting more involved to see what's out there and how to showcase your resume on LinkedIn is really another great option for you, because that's where people are posting, and it'll tell you, if you look at a job, it'll say how many applicants it has, so some job posting might have thousands of applicants, others might have 2 or 3. So I think that's another plus, that you can sort of see what's your competition, right? And I do know that in certain states now, there are going to be requirements of putting the salary ranges out on these job postings. So that should be coming out soon. There's a couple of states that are working on that as part of compliance. But I think LinkedIn is a great tool. Sometimes, you do get a lot of people reaching out to you, but that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I have a slightly different take. So, that's an opportunity to present yourself. And with your LinkedIn profile, I don't think you have to make it your exact resume. This is who I am, this is what I'm doing, and this is what matters. You want some good representation there. But, I might be an outlier, but I would say, I would avoid sending in mail to various recruiters and talent folks. I would connect with them. I would go to their website, see what they have available, and then maybe come back and say, hey, I've applied for this role, that kind of thing. It's just, I know with our team, we do heavy LinkedIn recruitment as well. There are hundreds and hundreds of in-mails that come in. So, just having some knowledge of our jobs and what you're interested in, and then coming back and communicating, totally great. The other thing is, it's great to have your profile on there and updated. We do a lot of proactive sourcing. So we're searching for people that have accounting, bookkeeping, office operations, and our recruiters are actually reaching out to you. So again, having that, showing that you're open to work, there's a setting on there. It's really a great tool.
Yeah, there is that setting that says open to work.
Yeah.
So adding that is
yeah, they make it a little tricky to find.
They do. They do.
And I've suggested, hey, you need to make it easy. They do it. If we're hiring, they make it really easy for me to have a little icon on my page that says that I'm hiring. But I've made the feedback that it's trickier to find. But again, I guarantee you can find it, or you can go into their FAQ and find out how to do it. And it presents a banner on your profile that says open to work.
Yep.
I love that. So many things about LinkedIn that I did not know.
Yeah.
So
we live it. Yeah.
but I would encourage folks. I know Mass Hire Career Center and Operation Able have been posting in the chat. I would encourage folks, if there's anyone out there that actually knows about a LinkedIn class, post that in the chat. But I love the idea of going on the frequently asked questions. That seems like a good thing to do. So another question here for the both of you. Do your companies have an employee resource group that focuses on the interests of workers over the age of 50?
So I can start. We are currently, as part of our DE&I strategy, is to research employee resource groups. So we do not currently have employee resource groups, but we are sort of working on a strategy for that. I do know that some of my peers at other organizations do have employee resource groups, and that group is one of the ones that they have, and it has been super successful. We just haven't, we're sort of a smaller organization, and we want to make sure that when we have resource groups that we're not going gangbusters and all pumped up about them, and then they sort of, fizzle out. So we're trying to find, a way to roll them out slowly and make sure that they're meaningful.
Yeah, I would say, we have a very well-established program for employee resources. It's just not age specific. What we've really done is focus them around the roles that people are performing. So whether you're a financial operations associate or a manager or a director or what have you, we've created these peer groups. We call them growth groups, voluntary to participate. We even have Zoom channels for each of them. They do actual Zoom meetings. They meet in person sometimes where the geography cooperates, because we have folks all over the country. But we thought it was important past onboarding to have an ongoing resource for folks to be able to ask questions and get answers and just generally connect with their peers. So I'm not quite sure if that's the type of group you were talking about, but they are very inclusive groups. There's a little bit of every level of experience in there, and our teams love them.
That's great. We're doing employee resource groups here at the city as well. And I think the only one that I've heard of, although I'm sure there's more out there, but I have heard that the Federal Reserve Bank actually has one for, I think they do people over 40.
Wow.
Maybe 45, but I have
Very nice.
definitely heard that. So another question for you folks. So this woman is wondering if anybody, and I would ask this specific to your organizations, but then if you've heard of other folks doing it out there, if people don't need insurance or benefits, have you heard, do your companies consider hiring folks for more compensation if they kind of don't need those other things that may cost a business more money?
I am happy to start that one. So we are Supporting Strategies is technically a franchisor. So we have 77 franchise offices, all independently owned and operated. Each one of those offices offers varying level of benefits. Some great, some not so great. And, that's just a reality. And we find with older work, they don't necessarily need the benefits, or if you're covered by someone else, in our world, that equals a higher rate of pay. So that's really how it works. And, in our offices that they're smaller, they're ramping up, they're not able to offer the better benefits. They want that rate to be worthwhile to help offset some of those costs out of pocket for folks. So again, that's really where the competitive pay has come in for us.
So I think for us, we really focus on, I think if you're going to decline the benefits, there's some sort of compensation for that. But when we're looking at pay, we really look at it across the organization and based on your job role. We do 26 surveys a year on compensation to make sure that we are equitable in the industry as well as across the organization. And 26 is a lot of surveys.
That's a lot.
Yes. Yeah. So we really focus
Right.
on pay equity. And we use an outside organization to do that. We also use an outside organization to sort of look at any sort of gaps that we may have when it comes to pay equity or DEI to assist us. So that's really, really our focus. And we feel that using that outside company really has a different view and helps us.
Yeah, we do that same. We have an outside company that does, that pay assessment essentially once a quarter, but monthly we're looking at what are competitive rates, et cetera, and making those recommendations from there. Very important to have the objective third party information to help guide us to make sure we stay competitive. Another thing that I'll throw in, you had mentioned earlier about pay transparency, where several states and many more on the horizon in January are going to be requiring employers to put real salary ranges within each of their roles. That's something that Supporting Strategies just adopted across the board in May of this year. So anytime you see a Supporting Strategies job advertisement anywhere, it's got the actual pay range for the role in it. So again, I think that's something we're all moving to, and it's something that I think it's going to be very helpful for job seekers of any age.
Great. I want to thank folks for putting the LinkedIn class information in the chat. I have another question here for Shameen. Shameen, you referred to mentoring of younger workers by those with more experience. What do you do to actively encourage that kind of intergenerational interaction and learning?
So we actually have quite a few mentorship programs that some of the business units actually are doing on their own, but we are working on a proposal right now to sort of have all of our mentorship programs under one umbrella. So we look at networking mentorship programs. So, that would be cross-divisional, people who are sort of looking for assistance in how do I get to the next level, or wanting to talk through some scenarios that they might have. And then we have job-based specific mentorship programs. So it would be if you're in the claims department, you might have a claims adjuster paired up with another claims adjuster to sort of show them the ropes or what they did to get to that next level, or what works for them or what has not worked for them. So we're working to sort of put that all under one umbrella, but we have found that it's been extremely successful, and we do a lot of manual matching to make sure that we have the right mentorship pairs. So we basically ask people who wants to be a mentor. We're looking for as many mentors as possible. A lot of times you have a lot of people who want to be mentees and not enough mentors. And we try and pair them up with what they're actually looking for.
Cross-pollination, I call that.
Correct.
I love that. Lynn, do you have anything additional to add on that mentorship?
Really, it's, while we don't have a formalized mentorship program, we follow the same lead as Amika. It's a matter of pairing the more experienced folks with the less experienced folks, making sure you have a good knowledge mix and not relying on the same mentors to support everyone. We're always trying to encourage new mentors into the mix. And then mentees that have advanced, have them turn into mentors. And again, put them in another group and kind of have them make a guest appearance and interact, and just sharing the different perspectives. It's just been extremely successful for us.
Great. Well, I love that mentorship idea. It's such a nice way for people to be able to share their skills and experience and contribute and also help the organization in, you know, ways that you normally wouldn't think of in just doing your role. I want to make sure I'm wrapping us up on time here. So I am going to wrap us up. I did see one more LinkedIn question about which jobs are legitimate and which jobs are false and applying. I would definitely encourage folks to take a LinkedIn class. It sounds like there's so many intricacies involved in LinkedIn, and that it's a really useful tool for people. So Miriam, I want to make sure I'm turning it back over to you in time. But first, I would just like to thank our panelists, Lynn and Shameen. You had so much to offer and add to this, and I know I learned a lot. So I hope others did as well. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
So I want to echo that. Thank you also, Emily, Shamim, and Lynn. I want to appreciate everything you have to say. Got so much information. I also want to thank AARP and the Age Friendly Institute for their sponsorship. And of course, all of you. I also want to thank Kendra Mrozik, who managed today's technology. So she made this all possible. Please let us know in the chat any suggestions you have, any comments, any ideas for future programs. Someone messaged me during the program and we came up with an idea for something for next year, which is coming up soon. Yes, we are having a program coming up on LinkedIn very shortly. So please go back to the Encore Boston Network website or go to your email and get information about it. This session has been recorded, as I said earlier. So you can catch, if you missed something, you came in late, or you had to step away, if you want to share it with people, please feel free to listen to it as much as you need. We'll also include some of the resources that have been in the chat. So if you didn't catch them all, we will include them. So please take a look at the Encore Boston Network website. We have a job hunt page. We have a lot of other age-friendly resources on other topics like Medicare and Social Security that some of us are dealing with. You can sign up for our newsletter, become a member. It's all free. I love saying that. Where can you get something of so much value for free? And you can become a community that shares your values and supports your interests. So in addition to LinkedIn, we also have a program on networking and how to approach it in a fun way. And that's coming up at the end of the month. That was just posted. And we also have something on a different angle. We have something on charitable giving. Now we're getting all those emails and all those letters in our mailbox, and we want to give money, and the end of the year is coming up and Giving Tuesday. How do we decide what's legitimate? How do we decide where we want to give our money? So we're going to have a program on that coming up shortly as well. So again, I want to thank you all, everybody, and have a wonderful day. Good luck on your job hunt. And for our panelists, good luck on searching and finding great employees.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.